गुड आफ्टरनून क्लास। देखिए ये एक टॉपिक है डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन जो ऑलरेडी हम लोग क्लास में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं। जहाँ पर मैंने बताया था कि डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होता क्या है और उसकी क्या इम्पोर्टेंस है आपके इधर डिजिटल मार्केटिंग में। किसी को आइडिया है अबाउट डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन? हम्म, किसी को कुछ आइडिया है डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के बारे में? नहीं आइडिया है। अच्छा, तो डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन जैसे मैंने बताया था कि ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का मतलब तो समझ ही रहे होंगे आप लोग। व्हाट इज़ ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन? मतलब आप पूरी तरीके से किसी चीज़ को जैसे आप पूरी तरीके से चेंज कर दो, ठीक है? बदल दो। कोई सपोज़ नई टेक्नोलॉज़ी आती है, कुछ नया कुछ आता है, आपने उसको अडॉप्ट किया और पुराना जो ट्रेडिशनल मेथड है उसको आपने छोड़ दिया, ठीक है? तो उसको बोलते हैं ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन। तो यहाँ पे डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन से मतलब है जैसे कि कोई ट्रेडिशनल सपोज़ कोई कंपनी है, कोई ऑर्गनाइज़ेशन है, जो पुराने जो भी मेथड्स है उसको फॉलो कर रहे हैं, जो भी बिज़नेस एक्टिविटीज़ है, चाहे वो बाइंग सेलिंग हो या दूसरे भी जो भी बिज़नेस एक्टिविटीज़ है, उनको वो ट्रेडिशनल तरीके से कर रहे हैं। अभी उन्होंने सोचा कि नहीं अभी हमको जो नई टेक्नोलॉजी है उसको अडॉप्ट करना है और डिजिटली अभी हमको सारा चीज़ें करना है, चाहे वो कम्युनिकेशन हो, चाहे वो जो दूसरी चीज़ें जो भी बिज़नेस एक्टिविटीज़ हो, वो सारी चीज़ों को करना है। तो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन पूरी तरीके से हर एक एक्टिविटी को उन्होंने उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने चेंज किया, ठीक है? और उसको बोलते हैं डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन। तो अभी कोई सपोज़ नया कोई सेटअप किसी को लगाना है, कोई नया बिज़नेस है, वहाँ तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। 1 सेकंड मुझे लग रहा है कॉलेज से फ़ोन आ रहा है। हाँ, तो कोई नया सेटअप है, कोई नया बिज़नेस है, तो वहाँ तो बहुत मुश्किल नहीं है, नई चीज़ों को वहाँ पे अडॉप्ट करना, नई टेक्नोलॉजी को अडॉप्ट करना आसान होता है क्योंकि आपको नया आपने स्टार्टअप जो है शुरू किया है, नया है, तो आपको कोई पुरानी चीज़ों को छोड़ना नहीं है, आपको नई चीज़ों को लेकर आना है। लेकिन अगर कोई ट्रेडिशनल तरीके से कोई बिज़नेस एक्टिविटीज़ कर रहा है, कोई बहुत पुराने ऑर्गनाइज़ेशन है और वो पुराने मेथड से काम कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए थोड़ा-सा प्रॉब्लम होता है नई चीज़ों को अडॉप्ट करना। फिर उनको सभी को देखना होगा, उनके एम्प्लॉइज़ के को उनको ट्रेनिंग प्रोवाइड करनी होगी जिससे वो प्रॉपर उस टेक्नोलॉजी को समझ सके और उसको अडॉप्ट कर सके और बहुत सारी चीज़ें उसमें करनी पड़ती है। आपको नया सेटअप पूरी तरीके से पूरा सिस्टम को आपको चेंज करना पड़ता है। तो क्या-क्या प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, ठीक है? तो वो सारी चीज़ें हम लोग बात कर चुके हैं इस टॉपिक के बारे में लेकिन मैंने एक आपको जो है बता दिया कि क्या एक्चुअली में डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होता क्या है, तो उसी से रिलेटेड वीडियो है उसको मैं शेयर कर रहा हूँ। ओके? बहुत ध्यान से सुनिएगा क्योंकि जो है ये टॉपिक थोड़ा-सा टेक्निकल है, थोड़ा-सा मुश्किल है, ठीक है? बहुत ध्यान से सुनिएगा, कुछ प्रॉब्लम होती है मुझे बताइए। क्या हुआ? कुछ प्रॉब्लम है किसी को? देखिए वॉइस नहीं पहुँच रही है आप लोग की। किसी को कुछ प्रॉब्लम है? अभी किसी ने कुछ बोला और अगर कुछ प्रॉब्लम है आप मैसेज कर दो, वॉइस तो नहीं पहुँच रही है मुझ तक।
have two words, digital and transformation. So when we talk about digital, we think about the first thing which we think about are apps. The first thing which we think about is getting rid of papers and bring everything into systems and applications. However, there is much more to that. It's just not only about getting rid of papers and bringing it to the system and we are digital, working with some apps. Let's understand what are the key pillars of digital transformation. So the first pillar of digital transformation is giving a superior customer experience. Customer comes first in whatever work we do. So we have to when we go for a digital transformation, the first thing is we have to keep customer in mind. That how do I make the life of my customer easier, better, faster, cheaper? And serve him as best as I can, because customer these days are spoiled for choices. So customer loyalty is right now, I would say, it's a very difficult thing to achieve. Just used to have one or two organizations, the customer didn't have choice. Now with internet and with so many organizations in competition, you have to give your customer the best possible experience. So we'll talk a bit about it. Then the second aspect of digital transformation is technology modernization. So you cannot give your customer a good experience with an outdated technology. So you have to upgrade your technology stack, and you have to ensure that you're constantly upgrading the technology, adapting the new tech trends, and then merging it with the softwares and applications you build. Third thing is operational excellence. So through operational excellence, we have to ensure that the internal operations within the organization is streamlined. They operate faster, leaner, and in a better way, so that we can serve our customer better, right? And the motivation factor also should increase. They should not keep on doing the work which they do not like, or they should not do the work which probably takes a lot of manual effort. Because as human being, we should be utilizing our thought process, research, and cognitive power. We should try to get rid of as much as stuff which are monotonous in nature and which takes a lot of effort in order to do the same things day in and day out. Fourth aspect is the rapid delivery. So in these days, we cannot follow the same old waterfall cycle where we get requirements, we analyze it for a long time, then we build design documents, technical documents, then we build our code, we deploy, we test, it goes through its own cycle, and then finally we'll deploy. So by the time we deploy, we'll probably find that that particular idea is probably outdated. Delivery, from ideation to delivery, we have to go very quickly. Now, the most important aspect, in my opinion, is data. What has changed over the last few years? So last few years, if we look at, two things are like in the forefront: data and digital. Can I just bring in all systems from papers to say apps or softwares without paying attention to data? Probably not. Data plays an equally important role. And we'll discuss some of the aspects of data. Looking at the questions, do you have any reference notes or workbook? Well, I'll be having this presentation, which you can refer as a notebook or workbook. And then if you have any particular questions in any of these areas, because I'm going to take a deeper dive in each of these 7 areas. And if you have any particular question related to any particular area, you can definitely, ask me, and I'll be happy to answer you. So coming back to data-driven decisions. So now we have got data from sources. Number two is the compute. So the compute storage has become much cheaper, so that now we can utilize the data in a much better way. Now, can we live without data? Probably not. Because each and every application you build, each and every strategy you build, you need data for it. We'll discuss probably in much more detail when we go to the data section. Then innovation, you have to constantly innovate and find out what works best for your organization, for your offering. Else someone will just take you by storm. So it's not only about bringing papers to systems, or just not giving upgrading your technology, or just bringing in rapid delivery. You also need to innovate a lot. You need to think beyond the box. You need to think as a customer, that if I am the customer, what are the things probably I will look at from this particular service or offerings. Last but not the least, connected systems. So we have to ensure that all the systems are talking to each other in a seamless way. So having said that, let's probably start going a bit deeper in each of the areas. So the first area is customer experience. Now today, if you look at the customer, so previously, in order to do certain things, we had to say, suppose we had to pay bills. If we just rewind our days like 8 to 10 years back, we used to spend time, take lunch breaks from office, or give it to some our employees of our organization, or take some help from someone to stand in a queue and pay your bills. When you have to view your account balances, you take your passbook to the bank and you stand in a queue, and then you get your passbook printed. You have to, when you have to file your income tax returns, you go to a CA, submit all your documents, papers, form 16s, and then he helps you in order to build the income tax returns. He gives you a receipt which you file it up at your side. Offers and promotions. I mean, previously, if you look at offers and promotions, we used to get offers and promotions over say templates, or at best through SMSs, right? Invest and monitor instruments. So the instruments which we have, be it stocks, shares, savings, we had no way to understand how is it doing. Think of financial planning. We probably will approach at best a financial advisor and say, hey, you know what? I have this much of money I can save. And by the way, tell me how do I put my money where? And you have to believe him, whatever he will do. And then at the end of each month, you will correct some papers, and then you will track your financial health of the money which you have put in. Now, cut to today's date. You open an app, you can view your account balance, you can pay your bill, you can transfer money, you can file your income tax return, you can look out for all the offers and promotions which are there exclusively for you. You can monitor what kind of instruments do you have, how they are doing with respect to market, whether you're doing well, not doing well. You can make instant decisions yourself. You can do financial planning with the help. Of course, you can take help from financial planners, but you yourself can do a lot of stuff. You don't need to, go to everywhere. You do stuff for yourself, and there has been a lot of applications which have been developed where you just make 2 clicks and you're all set with whatever work you want to do. You get notifications now these days for your pay bills, so that you save time. As a customer, time is very important. So we want better customer experience. We want things to be aggregated in one place. If you look at the likes of, say, PhonePe, Google Pay, Paytm, they have been excellent in aggregating all your needs under one platform. And so that you save time and you can focus on things which are like more important in life. So customer experience is a never-ending journey, and just bringing everything from papers to system will not help. It's also about understanding how to efficiently build a customer journey. So to extend what you said, what I just said, these days, customer journey has to be seamless. So there can be scenarios where you can probably start a customer journey in, say, a kiosk or an ATM, and probably come and complete it in the branch. Or you can open account in chatbots. You can open account through your internet banking, mobile banking. You can call center and make some request, and that request ID which you get, you can probably check the status of it in a chatbot. So the customer journey has to be seamless. It should not be that, hey, you know what, I have initiated this from the internet banking. When I come to the branch guys have no idea. That cannot work. Everything has to be integrated in a way so that as a customer you get the same experience irrespective of what channel of service you use, be it kiosk, be it ATM, be it service center, be it mobile banking, internet banking, chatbots, anything. Right? So moving on. Now this is internal. This is internal for an organization to understand the customer better. We have to understand the customer 360-degree view. We have to use a proper customer relationship management system through which I can track my marketing, I can track my leads, I can design my customer journeys, I can understand the customer insights, customer trends, I can do upsell, cross-sell of my products, I can understand where the customer is happy, where the customer is not, I can serve the customer. Basically, when you think of this era, when you get into an organization, when you suppose step into a branch or step into a service center, wouldn't it be nice if they already have got some idea about you as a customer, and then they come up and give you solutions which are like tailor-made for you? These days, the marketing or the customer experience is not generic, it's very personalized. What will work for me may not work for you, right? So it's very important that as an organization, when you do digital, when you go digital, you keep customer in mind, and customer relationship management is going to be one big pillar in this entire journey, because you have to understand your customer as a whole. The customer needs what he needs today, what he may need in the future, and how do you bring your solutions and offerings to your customer in the better way, right? You should not sell what you want to sell. You should sell what the customer wants to buy, right? You should be able to understand the customer pain. When the customer calls you in a call center, you should be in a better shape to understand why the customer may have called. And those things are possible when you go for a full-fledged customer relationship management solution, where you aggregate data from different sources of your enterprise, and then present it as a dashboard, and your agents, your customer relationship managers can look at the customer 360-degree view and then offer things accordingly. Moving on. So these days, the customer journey has also changed. Okay, I see a question from Nandita. Can we share some areas, industries that are yet to transform into the digital space, and why? I would say the early adopters, the organizations where I see a lot of digital adoption is around retail, e-commerce, banking, insurance. These are and to some extent telecom as well. I would say telecom also. Organizations like manufacturing, like oil and gas, I have not seen that level of traction yet. And mainly that has to do with the stuff, with the complications around the technology, and also getting the right skill of people. So you need people in the organization who understands the entire customer journey as a whole, and who can curate things according to your organization needs. You have to understand all the things holistically, right? Where I think the trend has already started, and in the coming days, you will see more and more industries going digital. Banking, insurance, retail, e-commerce, we can already see that digital in a very big way. But the adoption is only going to start increase over time. Other organizations, other industries, they have started, but you will probably get to see them, picking up traction in the coming days. So why a digital adoption works or doesn't work? That's a very big debate. I mean, a lot of organizations have started digital and they have not been able to do the way they wanted it to do, right? So I'll probably park it for my discussions where we can discuss these things in much more detail. So coming back to customer engagement. So previously, you can think when you go to a bank, it's like a big fat screen and people are like typing in all your details. These days, from a graphical user interface, the customer onboarding and customer servicing is happening through conversational interface and voice user interface, which means you can raise a request through chatbot. You can open an account through chatbot. You can raise a customer complaint through chatbot. And these chatbots are even have got integrated with WhatsApp, which means these days today you can just, WhatsApp a certain bank. There are banks who have already gone in WhatsApp, and you can just ask for your account balance. As simple as a WhatsApp message. You can send money through WhatsApp, right? You can raise a complaint through WhatsApp. You can look out for your last 5 transactions in WhatsApp without even logging into an internet banking portal. Going even one level higher, when the likes of Amazon Echo, Google Home, Apple Siri, Cortana, so these guys, you don't even need to use your mobile apps. You can just say, hey, Alexa, tell me what's my account balance. Hey, tell me my last 3 transactions. And everything is happening behind the scene. These voice to text interfaces, exchanges happen, and then they understand what you're trying to say. Then they call appropriate services, and then the entire response comes back to you. So technology has gone to this level where you can sit back at your home. You can just ask Alexa to do a money transfer, and it works. Though there are certain complications, security, which are still being worked out, but a lot of barriers have started getting broken. So let me look out, see if there are any other questions. Okay. So we'll move on from customer engagement to operational efficiency. So operational efficiency is bringing your cost down and bringing your efficiency up. So I do more things at a lower cost with a better efficiency. And this is more for the internal organization. So how do I streamline my operations so that I can do more in less time? So the first thing, what we need to do as part of digitizing operations is first lay down all the business process. Once you do that, then what you do is define a process where you have defined roles who will do defined tasks. That means when an application comes, it should first come to department A, then department B, then department C, then department D, then approver 1, approver 2, and the disbursement. Previously, you may have seen that while interacting with organizations, they say, yeah, this one I don't know, probably you can check with this person. This person say, I do not know, probably that person, which means there is no defined business process. So the first step is define your business process. Number 2 is digitize it. Number 3 is automate it as much as possible. So these are the 3 pillars in which you can streamline your operational efficiency to a very large extent. And then whatever tasks are repetitive, what you can do is you can use the likes of robotics process automation systems who can automate all daily, mundane and predictive tasks. If you're doing the same task again and again, so there's a predictability attached to it. So you just assign these tasks to a robot who will do your work so that you are freed up And you can focus more on customer journeys. You can focus more on complex problems. Moving on. So here's some of the use cases which you can think, like of human resources, central processing unit, branch operations, help desk, procurement, corporate services, a lot of tasks which are like very repetitive in nature. You can probably think of automating them through robotics process automation, so that your robots can work 24/7. They can take care of mundane, simple, and predictive tasks, whereas you can focus on complex business problems. This thing is also very important, managing your documents, managing and digitizing. So these days we cannot just keep, files and files and of physical files, right? We have to find a way where we can efficiently store all our documents and then we can retrieve it at our will. So you have to have a very robust document management and enterprise content management system within your organization. I have listed some of the vendors who do good work in this area, but these are not the only vendors. There are other ones, and neither I'm advocating any of them. I'm just trying to give you the concept. So the documents which you used to maintain in files, these days you can maintain in document management systems, where you can track the document, you can store it for a lifetime, and you can retrieve it at will. And you also know which document was uploaded by whom, where, when, all these areas. So your documents, physical documents, we are trying to get rid of the system. We are trying to digitize the entire set of physical documents. Because when we define our business process, at each step, we'll need these documents. So business process management along with document management system is very important in order to streamline your operations. Moving on, decision management. Now this is a very, very interesting area. Previously, in traditional IT, when business comes up with a new decision, what we used to do is, we used to go and code within our application, make those changes, deploy in, say, a lower environment, then deploy it in a test environment, productionize it, and by the time the company wants to roll a new offer on a particular business date, by the time I roll out, that business day is already gone, which will not work in today's time. We need to build systems so that you can externalize business rules and certain parameters. For example, suppose your organization says today, okay, for say during the festive time, I am going to offer my customers 5% extra discount. And in regular time, regular days, I want to offer the same customers, say 3% discount. Now changing this 3 to 5 on a business day, on a festive day versus a business day, I cannot keep that logic within my application. Because I cannot go and change my application and then every time I change, I deploy, I test, I build, I deploy it in the next environment, and it takes a humongous amount of time. So the way you need to work is externalize your business rules and set up these business parameters. That's from 3 to 5. I can just make a change, save, it can go to someone for approval, he approves, and the rule is in live. So from days and weeks, I can go live with a new set of business rule or change business rules in hours or minutes. And that gives your organization a competitive advantage. Moving on. So the second tenet which I was discussing is rapid application delivery. So these days we cannot stick to the same SDLC lifecycle where we used to define requirements, define design documents, modify the requirements, then develop, then test, then go live. That will not work. These days we have to go very, very fast without compromising. So one of the ways, through which you can do rapid delivery are, one is the way you have defined your architecture. So it's very important to set up a good foundation architecture so that you can do rapid application delivery later on. And it's also on the mindset of the business. So let me go one by one. So one of the new trend which has evolved over the years is the use of microservices. Previously on the left, you can see that this is a traditional 3-tier architecture where I have a web layer, I have a service layer, a data layer, right? So in the web layer, I capture my user experience and my user details. In my service layer, I do the orchestration and define some business rules, business logic, and then I finally persist into our database. Now what has happened is with microservices, you build a single fully owned functionality, which means now previously one team can only work on this, whereas now multiple teams can independently work on different functionalities without even working in without even having any dependency with each other. So if the base architecture is right, you can business perspective. That's one of the reasons where people viable product. What is that minimum thing I require in order to go to market? I do that part and then keep on pushing releases so that you do not end up deploying one software for like years. You go live quickly and you get the feedback, you incorporate them, and you're completely agile. You go very, very fast. Even if you have to fail, you fail fast. You do not get to find out after 2 years that what you did was actually not right. You succeed first and you fail first. So your release to market has to be much faster. And this is one conversation which you need to have with the business folks, that don't expect everything at the beginning. Start with something, tell me what are the minimum things you need, and we'll start with that, and then we'll keep on building over and over again. Moving on. So I'll take a pause here and then take some questions. Your data layer, every, like say 2 months, the competitor data, the social media data, you have to bring in everything, and then you have to present it in a management so that you give competitive advantage to your business. For example, suppose you have a bank and you are a branch manager, and one of your customers have gone to a Facebook page of a real estate and clicked like, or maybe posted something that, hey, what is the real estate price in this particular region? As a manager, if you get to know about that immediately, the first thing which you should hit is, hey, you know what are the real estate builders through which the bank has already got a pre-approved loan? Why not push that to the customer? So I understand customer needs much better and in a bigger way, in a better way, in a quicker way, so that I can serve my customer better. So data has to be available at fingertips, at a fast pace, with the right set of insights. And this is the hottest area right now in the market, that is predictive and prescriptive analytics, where we can use the likes of machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, where we not only analyze the data, we predict what's going to happen, and we prescribe what we should do in order to survive in the business. So in the previous slide, when I spoke about those dashboards, the dashboards is going to be built out of data which is being aggregated from different systems. Then it will have the likes of machine learning, deep learning algorithms being used, and then that will say that what will be the prediction, what is going to happen. So I can see that, hey, you know what, today my business in a certain region is down, and if it goes the same way, if the same trend follows, probably I will lose 10% of my market share in the next 7 days. And this looks like to be the probable cause, and you should do this in order to prevent that to happen. Maybe my marketing is weak there. Maybe a new competition has come with a new set of products. I have to understand all these things and then present it to the management so that they can take better business decisions. Now, API is, when we spoke about connected systems, these days you can see that the applications are not only connected to each other, but they're also connected within the organizations. Like for example, an organization A today can also sell products of organization B. Maybe organization B may not have a good reach, so organization A will use the APIs exposed by organization B and sell it to their customer. They have customer base and they can charge a premium, and organization B, who does not have a customer base but has a good product, they are getting the customers readily. So you think of organizations like, say, Make My Trip, a Book My Show, say a Trivago. What they're exactly doing? They are consuming and aggregating the APIs from different organizations and showing everything to the customer. Now, what is the advantage of that? One is that the customer reach becomes much wider. Number one, the customer has a better choice now. Number two, and organizations just sitting at home can get to understand what their competitor is doing. For example, if I have Hotel A and Hotel B for the same date, I can get to understand that Hotel A is providing this much of discount, or what is their pricing, and I can immediately change my system or make business decisions instantly to compete. Also, with open banking, with open APIs coming in, there will be a lot of information exchanges between organizations. Like for example, in coming days, if you already have done your KYC once with one organization, probably you don't need to do it again. That can be stored maybe in a central data repository, and each organization can just go and use their APIs and get your KYC details done. For example, you go to, say, an organization or say a government entity where you submit your KYC and you get a KYC ID. Now, when you go to a bank to open an account, you don't carry anything. You just say, this is my KYC ID. And they will get all the information about you through APIs. They will get all the information, they will validate, and then they will immediately process. So work becomes much faster. So organizations